Good morning and welcome to the Grand Theatre of Nigerian politics, where every week feels like an AMVCA-worthy soap opera, just without the good cotton and better acting. So let's kick things off with our budget maestros. The IMF rolled in this week and whispered, Nigeria, maybe don't bet the farm on $75 oil prices are hovering on around $68 per barrel. Do remember. So now our officials are scrambling like magicians just mid-trick, hoping fuel subsidy cuts and tightening monetary magic will patch tomorrow's crater-sized deficits. Because when lives are on the line, who doesn't love a good accounting exercise? Meanwhile, in the world of defection drama over just our opposition stars have resurrected the Africa Democratic Congress, ADC. A coalition headlined by Obi, Atiku, and former Senate President David Mark, with a narrative straight from 2015. They are battling foes, fraud, and tomorrow's one-party state prophecy. Because, hey, democracy only dies if you say it doesn't. A round of applause, everybody. They are trying to save Nigeria's democracy. But let's hold our applause first, because who knows? Maybe they might just be the band of Avengers that we need to save democracy today. In the meantime, let's talk about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan, whose suspension has now been declared excessive by a court, that's the Federal High Court in Abuja. She gets reinstated. The court has asked the Senate to reinstate her, but gladly, she must pay 5 million naira for daring to speak truth to power. Some call it judicial justice, others call it bribing with naira-sized payments. Sue me. And yes, the IMF is, patting us on the back, by the way, for our currency reforms and our Eurobond swagger. But let's not kid ourselves. They also noted resilience in a polite term for we are barely surviving. And that's the truth. So here's the delicious irony in all of this. A shrinking oil windfall, a frenetic subsidy cuts, global loans, opposition coalition deja vu, Senate stunt arrests when it comes to NNPCL, and governors paused like TikTok videos and about to restart again. And every single week, we are told this is progress. Nigeria is transforming. Absolutely. We are transforming into a surreal gallery where the artwork are scandals. The critics are courts. And the audience, well, that's the rest of us, are clutching our sanity while the show goes on. Oh my God, what is that? But anyway, as always, we try to make sense of it right here on Breakfast Extra. So as always, welcome. Because in this country, the season finale never ends. So does the show, because we're just getting started. And I'm not alone, as always. My co-host, Mazino Appeal, is with us this morning. Mazino, good morning to you.
So, your monologue reminded me of a movie I saw a couple of years ago, and Nigeria was crazy about it. It was Endgame, Avengers.
I've never seen that thing.
You haven't? Well, you don't need to, because the Nigerian, system is actually reenacting it for you as we are now assembling inside of the ADC with everybody in it. We've got who, this, that, everybody. So I'm excited to see how exactly they want to save democracy, like you've just stated.
I know. Very unlikely bedfuls. I've never seen anything like it.
Unlikely, yeah.
Very unlikely bedfuls.
But only the bigwigs and the very big ones who pack a lot of following, especially with their Captain America, Captain Nigeria, Mr. Peter Obi.
Look, it's very interesting. You have Articulate, you also have Peter Obi, and you also, look, I wonder what it's going to be. The Articulate supporters and also the Obedient supporters.
Obedient Articulates.
Who is going to clinch the presidential ticket for the ADC?
Yeah.
So, can Atiku take the back seat? Will Obi choose to be vice president?
So therein, Judith, is the big problem, the conundrum that we're going to have to solve with Atiku, who's perhaps maybe his 70th time running for president, and Peter Obi, who seems to be the biggest favorite for young Nigerians. It's going to be a battle first off on that ground, and then a battle for Nigeria. So, hey, strap on your seatbelt, because
Like I said, there's no season finale. We're just getting started.
It's going to be good.
All right, let's get started, shall we, on Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
Well, good morning once again, and welcome to Breakfast Extra, your fresh, fearless, and also full-on weekend dive into the stories that matter across Nigeria and the continent. Of course, we already got started, but let's tell you what we're going to run down for today. We've got a packed show, and of course, trust, it's going to be good. First, we head to Nigeria's capital, where FCTA workers are up in arms. They're protesting unpaid wage awards, also arrears, and stalled promotions. We'll bring you a full breakdown and speak with key stakeholders on what's fueling the unrest. And then we turn to a growing crisis that's quietly devastating urban communities. It's happening from Lagos to Port Harcourt. It's gang violence. It's spiraling. Over 1,600 people killed in just 5 years. So we ask the question, what's driving this shadow war, and can it be stopped? We're also zeroing in on Nigeria's local governments. They're closest to the people, but are they truly serving the people? Citizens are demanding more, and we've got the big voices unpacking the way forward, so stay with us on that one. And from Washington to West Africa, the international fallout continues as the Trump administration pulls the plug on U.S. aid. Now, what does this mean for health, education, and also development projects across Nigeria? Well, we'll get to find out. Plus, our Focus Africa today, we're zooming in on a rare diplomatic moment. The DR Congo and Rwanda's new peace deal. Is this a genuine breakthrough or just another round of lip service diplomacy? We've got the experts and they'll be telling us their opinion. And of course, remember, it wouldn't be a weekend without a celebration on Weekend Warrior. And today we salute a true icon, the legendary goalkeeper, Peter Rufai. From the World Cup to the royal roots, his story is one for the history books. R.I.P. So grab your coffee, settle in. We've got the news, the nuances you missed out on, and of course, we are definitely going to be exposing the narratives that matter. There's a short break now, and when we come back, we commence inside of Breakfast Extra.
Oh, what a time for us to be alive and get started with the Saturday dailies on Breakfast Extra right here on News Central Television. We will be bringing you all of the front pages, the major front pages for Nigeria, the biggest stories today, by the way. Mazuna sort of reeled out all of our intro, all the things you're going to catch up on first. But first, let's get into the dailies for this morning. And we'll pull up the very first one for you there, and it's going to be this day newspaper. There we go. Trump's troops thought terrorists, TTT alterations. That's alliterations is my arch.
Do you need any help there? Troops
troops
terrorists.
Terrorists. There we go. Attempts to blow up Marte Dikwa Bridge, kill terrorist fighter. You can find that story on page 5. At the top there, NUPRC revenue soars 176.7% to 12.2 trillion naira in 2024. Now, if you're wondering what the NUPRC is, it's the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. Now, I'm sure they're all bringing out their numbers now, given the scandal that is stirring in the NNPCL regarding the 2.2 trillion naira and the crater holes in the records from last year and the year prior. Moving on now, banks resume dollar transactions on naira debit cards.
No.
Improved FX liquidity.
Are we back?
That story is on page 5.
That's very interesting because that has been such a pain in the patella.
Don't mind him.
It's been such a...
Finally.
It's difficult especially if you
Have to pay for things online?
Online or traveling outside the country or paying from using your ATM outside the country. I think it's almost about 10 years now you haven't been able to do that. I might be wrong, but...
Finally.
It's a big deal, big deal.
Yeah, finally. Someone doesn't have to start buying dollar cards online to do transactions. At the bottom there, coalition to unseat Tinubu in 2027 doomed to fail. Wike Sonwo-Olu declare. FCT Minister tackles Amechi, urges President to release forensic report on the NDDC. Now, you do know that if they release forensic report on the NDDC, there's a particular person who is in this administration who was once the chairman of the NDDC, and he was asked to off his mic.
I remember that guy.
Yeah.
Isn't he currently hosting a very interesting position?
He's in the administration. Leave it there.
All right.
Moving on. Lagos governor condemns political distractions. Governor's defections won't save Tinubu APC from defeat, says Dalong. Baba Ahmed struggle for presidential ticket, biggest test for ADC. Babangida Aliyu, Niger PDP deny joining coalition. Ex-NDLEA boss, women luring husbands into substance abuse for increased libido. I know. I can find a story on page 8, by the way.
Okay.
It's saying men that are fighting to have to be polygamous and polyamorous and have plenty wives.
Well, I'm not sure. I exactly can't answer that. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break on the papers because we have plenty to talk about inside of the show today. So we're already going to get started with our first big report. So let's already get started with that one. Judith, if you please.
Yes, indeed. And it's going to start off with Nigeria's capital. Now, it was a fiery fiery start to the week in Nigeria's capital as public servants under the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, took to the streets, shutting down the secretariat and demanding justice over what they describe as long-standing neglect by the government. Now, from unpaid wage award arrears, stunted career progression to poor access to work tools and training. The grievances are as old as they are familiar. But this time, the workers say enough is enough. News Center Sagir Ibrahim was on ground when the protest broke out earlier this week, and he filed in this report. Take a look.
It was a full-blown protest at the entrance of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, where the minister's office is located. Chanting solidarity songs, the workers accused the current FCTA leadership of neglecting their welfare and ignoring legitimate demands. Many say their conditions have worsened under the present administration.
For the past 10 years, no training. And if we came to compound it, we don't have work materials. If you go to the offices, no typewriter, no computers, nothing.
When it comes, we say it go better, we say things go better, but we never knew the reverse is the case.
We want our overhead to be paid so that offices can function well. We want our staff to be promoted. We don't want to hear the word overseer on an acting director. You keep somebody and say you are overseer. He's not being promoted and he's kept there for like 2 years and the person retires like that.
We, the auxiliary staff of AEPB, we have not received salary for good 6 months now. We are here without even appointment letter, no gratuity, no pension for us.
While the FCT minister has been actively commissioning infrastructure projects across the territory, the visibly agitated workers argue that governance must also prioritize workers' welfare, not just roads and bridges.
We are not talking about the area of infrastructure. You see roads, building roads and bridges, and busy commissioning. But some of the people driving the economy, we as staff, we are doing the work, and we are not encouraged.
After they go say wicked work. Which kind of work is work? How you go take work? No, it's like a man when marry wife. The wife they hungry for inside room. Then they come outside. They share money for beggars. They share money for everywhere. They go they shout, Baba Mutu, Baba Mutu.
Asked what their next move would be if their demands are ignored, the workers say the current protest is only the beginning.
By the time we wait for their response and they refuse to respond, tomorrow will be mass, and this pay will not contain the rest of because we are fighting on behalf of 40,000 FCT staff. We pray that our demand should not even be met, so that we'll teach him a lesson. He will never enter here, that cross here.
The protesters are demanding swift engagement from authorities and warn that failure to address their grievances could lead to a total shutdown of services across the FCT. Whether the government acts or not, tensions in the FCT are unlikely to ease anytime soon. In Abuja for News Central, Sakir Ibrahim.
Oh, that was News Central's Sagir Ibrahim capturing the scenes from the FCTA Secretariat, where aggrieved staff blocked access and made their demands loud and very clear. So joining us now is Sagir Ibrahim himself to take us behind the scenes of the protest and what he observed while covering the story. Sagir Ibrahim, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Bright and early. You're often our very first guest each time we have a big report that has your concern. Sagir, so you were at the heart of the protest. Can you please describe the mood of the workers? We saw a couple, but what else didn't we see regarding the mood, the ambience, and their grievances?
Good morning, Mas. Good morning, Judith. Judith, you're looking great as always. Mas, of course, for you as well.
I'll take it because...
I think you're greeting me first.
Okay.
Only because you called me Maz, that's okay.
Okay, so let's get to the conversation. It's been an interesting week, actually, because you know, it's a classic tale of juxtaposing the interest of the government and also the interest of the led. I say this because I was indeed at these protests and it lasted for 3 days. And also, you know, I was privileged to attend the commissioning of projects also within the FCT. So the comparisons is quite clear. At the FCTA ministry, these workers were out protesting, saying for the very longest time, they've not been promoted. Their arrears, including wage awards, has not been paid to them. They complain that there's always been delays in the payment of salaries. But then these issues, they say they have suffered for years. And they are calling on the FCT minister to ease their, the pressures, because they also complain that he is not making matters easy as well. They had accused him of not carrying directors along. They have accused him of also in one way or the other not allowing for the promotion of certain assistant directors to the position of directors. Rather, they coined another nomenclature which they said, was not even in the rules. So with this on the one hand, and then you see the FCT minister on the other hand going from one area council to another area council, commissioning projects, road, bridges, rehabilitating buildings and all of that. And this to the government looks like, oh, he's actually trying and is delivering the dividends of, of democracy to the people. But then you have civil servants who are protesting, and this asks the question, is it that the interest, of the leaders is being served while those who are supposed to be the led and who are supposed to reap from the benefit of these services continue to complain? I mean, you saw the report, you saw how visibly agitated they were. And so do we continue to watch them hit the streets while, the minister remains adamant? Because he had also responded to their demonstration saying, okay, you have blocked the ministry gates, and if I wanted to sign for the payment of your salaries, how would I do that when you have blocked the gate? But also mentioned that he will not be blackmailed by this protest. So it really is left to be seen what shape and form the next week will look like, because it's definitely, I can say for a fact, not yet over.
And this is just very wild. We had, 17 days, 21 days of commissioning of projects across the FCT, and the administrative officers, those who are the essential, the oil of the engine that sort of fuels this entire entity, the capital itself, being withheld salaries. So for the sake of our viewers, right, and for those who are just tuning in, sort of help us reel out what the most pressing demands that stood out to you, and what really, besides the FCTA or the FCT minister himself, were there any other high-ranking officers that were there to at least engage them in a more diplomatic and meaningful manner?
Okay, so for their demands, let me highlight a few of them. There's been no promotion from 2023, 2024, and 2025. They say the chairman of the FCT Civil Service Commission must go. And they also say no to overseeing director's position. So that's the position I was talking about earlier, coining another nomenclature for directors. So they explained that you're usually supposed to go from assistant director to director, but somehow the position of overseeing director was created. And they say this has hampered the promotion from assistant director to director's position. They also want the domestication of the IPPIS. They said there's been inaccessibility of the salary portal to salary desk officers. It goes on and on and on. But mind you, on the other hand, these FCTA staffs who are protesting are also different from the set of NUT, the Nigerian Union of Teachers, for primary school teachers who have also been on the street, also protesting on paid arrears, on paid salaries, and poor welfare and the likes of that. So it's been protest on one hand, protest on the other hand, and the minister right there in the middle. But the good thing, or at least something that would seem like succor to these protesting teachers, was in the last few days, the minister had met with the striking teachers and had also mentioned to them that the problem indeed was not even from the ministry, but rather from the different area councils. And that was where he made the declaration that, of course, we can see from the visuals, very dark man was there at the FCT ministry with, young pupils of primary schools also to drive home their demand. And I think it was on this very day that the meeting with the NUT, the meeting with all of the stakeholders in the primary school sector here in the FCT met, and the minister had made the declaration that the IGR of the area councils, about 70% of it will be taken away, or in the words that was used, seized, and used to clear salary arrears of the striking teachers. So that's on the one hand. But for the FCT civil servants of the FCTA, 40,000 of them, they claim, who are protesting out of the streets, complaining that even sheets of paper, A4 paper and printing materials that should be available to them is not available in their offices because they claim the minister has not carried them along, are still protesting out on the streets. And like I said, it's indeed going to be an interesting week.
Sagir, if you put together all the protests across the FCT in the past 2 weeks, what you're going to have is a garden salad of protests, I bet you. However, there's one question I have, after which I'm going to ask a follow-up. How long have these workers been, how long have they had these grievances?
So for the workers, from their demands, it seems it's been years, and this is what makes it another tricky situation, because they complain that some of the demands they have on the charter dates back to as far as 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Okay, now
it's a good thing for the minister.
Just a second. 5, 6, 7 years ago, but the FCT minister has only been minister for 2 years. So why dump everything on the FCT minister? Because I'm wondering, some of the commissioning that he's done in the past couple of weeks have been to the benefit of the people. Now, when you balance that against what these workers are saying, they've been suffering all this while. Doesn't it point to a rot in the specific system that they are in? Because if the FCT minister seems to be doing good commissioning for the benefit of the people, whether it's roads or facilities and all that, that's also for the people. This rot in the system that the workers are complaining about, if it is backdated, then perhaps maybe would find exactly where the source is, or maybe where the malfunction is in their system. Wouldn't you agree? And I'm not holding brief for the FCT minister.
Too late, already happened.
But what do you think?
Of course. Well, I wouldn't say you're holding brief for the FCT minister, actually. Excellent question, Masino, because I also asked this same question. I was asking the reason why you'd be blaming a minister who came in barely just 2 years ago and saying he was responsible for problems that dates back to 7 years. And they said, well, they are not blaming him for the length of the problem. They are blaming him for compounding the problem. He said they are not being carried along. This is the words that, they kept on using. For instance, they even mentioned that the FCT minister had gone to the National Assembly to defend the FCT budget without a single director from the ministry, and that's how bad the problem is. And there's been a couple of them, even though this issue has been persistent for years, it doesn't mean that a minister should come and not at least try to ease the issue, ease the problems. But he has been deaf ears to the issues that they've been raising. They complain that a lot of auxiliary workers, some of them do have been working for 10 years, 12 years. A lot of them have not been confirmed. So if there were issues with family, or maybe there's, God forbid, a health challenge, they may not have enough cover to provide them the needed health cover that they would need. So because of this, they are saying, well, you met the problems, but then saying you were not there when it happened does not absolve you from trying to find a solution to it, because this is what we expect that you would come and do. So it's really not a question of whether he was there when the problem started, but a question of what he is doing to ease these problems and make working in the FCT a much more easier job than it is now.
Now, I mean, Sagir, this is not the first time. In fact, this is the second time I'm hearing the words "not carrying me along" or "carrying us along" when it comes to the FCT minister. And the very first case was when we heard about the senator representing, I think, Abuja. I can't remember the constituency now, and that's the Ireti Kinigwe, saying that the FCT minister was not carrying her along. So this is the second time we're hearing this. But let's talk solutions, right? A long week is ahead of us. This strike, if it persists, it means that administrative, work will not happen in the Secretariat. Do you see the body language of the Senate, of the FCT administration, leaning or sort of they come to the middle, to the middle ground or come to the table? What would look like a solution for them to get back into the office and continue work?
So initially it was the FCT workers and the teachers protesting, one on one hand, the other on the other hand. But it seems as if the minister may have solved the problem of the striking teachers for primary schools. So I believe this eases some pressure. It would reduce for the minister, and then what's left is the workers of the FCT. Like I mentioned, they say 40,000 of them. I do not know what is going to happen next week, but what I can say for sure is the minister has made it emphatically clear that he will not be blackmailed by protesting workers because of problems that predate his administration in office. So what these workers are going to do after this response is what we wait to see.
Oh, well.
Wow.
All eyes are on
the last
FCTA.
guy that pressed on and pushed the FCT minister ended up getting suspended.
Hey.
I'm not even going to say who or what, but Wike is not so
Allow
much
peace to reign, Masino. They have moved on.
We hope.
It's interesting because some would say the FCT minister is known for being very open and he's fiery when he speaks. And it's really interesting to see a civil servant say, I want him to even not, meet or address our demands. Let's see how we will come and enter this ministry. We will stop him from entering. This, to me, shows you the level of commitments these guys, are to this cause and how far they are willing to go. And this is even what makes it more interesting, seeing who bows in the end, whether the minister or the FCTA workers.
Well, we're all for this series.
Week, so
We've seen this show before. We know how it plays out at the end.
Sagir, thank you very much for being our first guest. No, you're not a guest. You work here. Thank you very much, Sagir. We'll be expecting more from you.
A pleasure.
All right, now, let's take a break. We've got more conversation coming up inside of Breakfast Extra. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. Our second conversation for this morning, we turn our attention to a chilling and deeply troubling crisis, one that continues to claim lives and also fracture communities in Nigeria's South, and Southwest regions. Cult gangs. Long associated with university rivalries, well, they've evolved into sprawling, violent, and deeply entrenched networks. In states like Rivers, Lagos, Edo, and also Delta State, they're responsible for over 1,600 deaths between 2020 and 2025, rivaling the impact of terrorism and banditry in other parts of the country. Their tools, guns, machetes, and political cover, believe it or not. Their targets rival gangs, innocent civilians, and anyone who stands in their way.
Sounds like a very sad situation. Now, we are talking about Black Axe, Aye, Vikings, Icelanders, Greenlanders. The list keeps growing, and so does the body count. From political manipulation to turf wars over illegal taxation and oil bunkering, these gangs have turned urban spaces into war zones. But how did we get here, and what can be done? Today we begin a big report with insights from those tracking this crisis closely. Joining us now is Kainde Giwa. He's a security analyst at SBM Intelligence, the authors of the recent damning report, Gangsters Paradise, Nigeria's restive youth gang crisis 2020 to 2025, which we're going to discuss. Also joining us is Opeoluwa Taiwo, Executive Director at the Africa Bridge Initiative, an organization working with youth and vulnerable populations across the country. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. I want to start. It's always good to have you. Let's start with you, Giwa. This report is not surprising, but also very chilling as well when we look at the numbers. Not surprising because we've had stories of university days where we knew the names. They sound very familiar, so it's not surprising, but it's also very chilling. But why these numbers in these areas that you have listed, Rivers, Edo? I'm surprised Cross River is not in there.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. So, first thing you said is that it is chilling. The incidents are, most of the incidents we hear about is terrorism, insurgency, banditry. So, court gangs and court clashes or gang warfare is highly underreported and underestimated, across all geopolitical zones in Nigeria. And it's not restricted to one, even in the northeast and in the northwest, although, it is a bit, infinitesimal, it is a bit small, but we have over 30 fatalities in the northeast and northwest in the space of 5 years. So, but of course, the south-south and the southwest play, they are major epicenters, of this violence. Key thing is that Rivers is the most deadly and the most lethal state in Nigeria in the last 5 years in terms of fatality. We've had over 700 fatalities from the south-south, Rivers alone having 400 fatalities, largely due to access to sophisticated arms and weapons that, were accessed, so to speak, from past militancy, oil-related, incidents, and, even from political actors, so to speak. So, in terms of fatality, Rivers is more deadly than Lagos. But in terms of the incidents, Lagos had more incidents than Rivers due to the dense population of Lagos and of course, when you come to Lagos, Lagos also has more reporting tools to show that these clashes, happen frequently.
Which might not happen in other states.
Of course, which might not happen in other states because Lagos is, so to speak, in terms of the urbanization and the civilization. So Lagos has more incidents because of the dense population, because of more reporting tools, and, incorporation of the street gangs, like the Kesari boys in Mushin, the Diaraba boys in Surulere, the boys in Oshodi, they've in conjunction with the Aye and the Eye confraternities, which are the major gangs, have made more incidents in Lagos. But why don't we have more fatalities in Lagos? Because there are more increased police presence in Lagos than other states in Nigeria. So these incidents are highly disrupted once they happen.
I'm coming to you, but very interesting report when I read through it, and I thought very interesting, but there was one factor that I thought perhaps maybe could have made it in. Did you guys consider the factor of supply and demand? I'm coming, because in Lagos, where the struggle inside of these gangs is for relevance, in places like River State, it's more because there is a demand for their use. So how does that play in here? Demand and supply in Lagos versus that in other states, especially in River State?
I think that the major player or the major tool for many Rivers is the resource that have been striving for. Like the oil resources in Rivers is what spurs this fatality. It's always more laid out. When there is an incident, there is definitely going to be death.
But are they in River State more? Are the activities there because there is a need for these cults, the need for these people who could perhaps maybe act as henchmen, is the question. Because in Lagos, you rarely need that. But in places like River State, at the strike of a match, kaboom, you have these guys come out from the woodworks. So is there a bigger demand in states like River State for these cult groups?
Yes, there is a bigger demand.
And so that means money is...
Yes, money is involved and the politicians are also involved.
Okay.
Let me come to you, Okwelua. I mean, when you look at the history of this cult, it's very clear that it's continued to thrive and it's grown bigger and sort of metamorphosed into what we're seeing now. And it's very chilling. The question is, how has it continued to persist over the years and become the successful? And how are they still recruiting young men in spite of the gory stories of how these young men end up? Because I remember the 90s. It wasn't fun.
All right, that's a good one. You just strike my mind talking about the recruitment. That word is very peculiar. in this kind of conversation, you know. So let's look at some figures. We're talking about 230 to 250 million Nigerians. So out of that figure, we're having 70.6 as for the youth space. So out of that 17.6% for youth space, we're having about, according to the United Nations figure, 15 to 25 years makes it about 80% of that 17.6%. So what does that mean? We are having a large number to fight with. So the first question is, how did we get to this point? What are the recruitment process? What are the POG? What do you call that? The point of gathering. So the first point of gathering is the family. That's where the recruitment starts from. So 3 or 4 days ago, I was at a forum by the IG of police talking about the safe school policy. So he's trying to have an initiative whereby we have the safe school squad in all the secondary school and primary school nationwide. So a particular conversation struck us at that event. A young girl of secondary school said, and I quote, from Monday to Friday, my mom, or from Monday to Saturday, my mom leaves home 5 a.m. She comes back 10 p.m. So what does that mean? What transpired, what transaction took place or is taking place between that 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. that the young girl will get to school? That's another conversation. So between 3 and 4, she leaves the school. She's back home. So what happened between that 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.? That's another conversation. So what does that mean? The gap is wide for the recruitment process to take place. So the recruitment starts from the home. So what does that mean? The social tension, the poor parenting, all right? Or maybe inordinate parenting. So we're not calling it poor parenting. So what does that mean? We need to understand that we are living in 21st century. So a father, a mother is not accepted, it's not acceptable, it's not permitted that you leave home 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. I know the question will come that, how do I feed my kids, all right? So the solution are enormous. The mom, let me give you a typical example. Okay, so I work with the youth, about 66,000 youth in the last 1 year. We speak to them in secondary school, in tertiary institutions. One major recruitment process, the parenting gap. I was with a particular international school, private school, last week, talking about the drug abuse, June 26th. So most of them came to me one-on-one, and they said, my mom do not have time for all of this conversation. So that's where the recruitment starts from. So like your question, the recruitment will continue as long as the gap still exists at home. So you and I have the solution.
There's also a widening gap, and that widening gap is the the cost of living crisis, as well as unemployment, which is now hovering at 53%, according to stats. And then there's now the poverty line, which keeps increasing every day. Does that also drive the numbers that we're seeing in terms of recruitment?
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about poverty, there are different types of poverty.
Multidimensional poverty.
I know there's that angle, that narrative of multidimensional poverty. But beyond that also, there's also poverty in terms of the social relationships, the social contracts. So what do I mean? We are already evolving out of our communal living. At your own street, at my own street, where I grew up, when you leave your street to my street, the question comes, what are you doing here? Why are you here at this particular time? You are supposed to be at home. But now, everybody to his tent. So you go, the children does whatever they like. So the gap is huge, even beyond that poverty. So that poverty is beyond the economic poverty. The social poverty is also there, and which a lot of us were not talking about. Because when we talk about poverty, the next thing everybody is looking at is government. Government cannot do everything. This particular recruitment process has to be stopped from home. And we have to be intentional about it. Because if I gather about $1 billion in the next 10 years, what does that mean? These kids will come one day and say, hey, old man, your mansion is no more useful for me. They will sell it at the fingertips. And that's the end of my mansion. So what does that mean? The poverty we are running away from will still meet us in the next 20 years if the recruitment process continues. So the recruitment of these courts must stop.
I think it's trying to say that it's foundational.
Yeah.
Right.
The root and the source of all of these cult gangs starts from the home, starts from the family. So if that is tackled, the employment the unemployment you're talking about,
Right.
the
Poverty.
poverty that you're talking about might not really find much expression in the lives of these, idle.
Idle, thank you.
Idle is a good word, especially when it comes to unemployed youth. But let's take a look at the political implications here. Your report did say that there are political influences, political nuances to all of this. Let's compare that to groups like the NURTW, which in Lagos is supposed to be a transport management association, but many people argue that it actually is in fact a political tool. Would you say that these cult gangs actually operate? Beg your pardon.
Bless you.
Would you say that these cult gangs? I'm sorry, I have to do this.
So he's saying that, I mean, the cult gangs...
I got this. Thank you, sir. Thank you for trying to help.
Yeah.
But would you say that these cult gangs can compare to such an organization like the NURTW? Because they seem to be used as tools themselves. Now, I'm not saying that the NURTW is definitely so. I'm saying that it is arguable that people argue that it is so. Would you relate it to that kind of organization or that kind of a process or recruitment or in any way, shape or form? Is it similar?
Well, the NURTW is obviously and definitely not a cult gang, but they have experienced or we've had incidents and clashes, or should I say violence from them that mimics, these cult gangs, and they have similar patterns, bullish attitude, brutish attitude, and all of that. So it is pertinent to mention that these NURTW guys are also used as political tools, especially during elections, to instill fear, to disrupt transportation, to disrupt a lot of movement and logistics for people to vote in who they want to vote in. So these political actors uses these guys, whether we like it or not, to mimic what cult gangs would definitely do in achieving their aim.
How do
Very
they
interesting
get their hands
similarity.
on weapons?
Well, political actors have access to weapons, whether we like it or not. They are in charge of government. They are in charge of security. So they weaponize these guys. They harm them. They fund them. They give them all of the ammunition. And when these guys have done their work, these guys become emboldened. They become autonomous. And, they become out of the reach, even of the political actors themselves. And, they go on to continue to strike.
Well, I remember back in school, late 90s, early 2000s, to be in a cult, is there some sort of pride of belonging and identity that it is? I want you to help me to describe that, right? What does that mean? What's that thing that they have that they want to so badly, desperately align themselves with that society doesn't provide them?
Okay, all right. So, when we talk about this youth, the gap is so wide that we are looking at the youth in Nigeria, we are looking at the age of 30 to 40. We are talking about youth empowerment, youth employment, which is a mirage. The real gap is from 15 to 20. That is where the foundation comes from. When I get to school, what does that mean? Once I have, out of the GP of, let's say CGP of 5 point, once I have 3.5, you are liable to be recruited into cult, in quotes, because that's the foundation of cultism. Actually, cultism was not supposed to be a negative narrative. It was supposed to be a positive narrative, talking about the likes of Professor Wole Soyinka and the likes. So what does that mean? You have that pride because you can't belong to that setting if you do not have such a CGP or GP. So there's a requirement for it, for even belonging to a particular set. Apart from that, maybe because of your affluence, of your mom or your dad affluence in the society, or is the son of a senator. So that means we're going to be getting some liquidity through this guy. So let's bring him on board. You understand? So another thing is that don't forget that there's a gap already at home. So these guys are ready-made to fill in the gap. They understand this gap beyond you and I. They know there's a gap at home. So immediately you enter into the university, I am feeling that, oh, it's a free world. So these guys are there to guide me into that free world. That free world, that guided free world, will lead me into IA, will lead me to what? Into black acts. So will lead me to other cultism. You understand? So what does that mean? The recruitment process has to be stopped. That's number one. Number two is that the university curriculum, we need to include history. Let's know where we're coming from. Let's understand that good name is better than 5.00 CGPA. So what does that mean? I have a colleague or a friend of mine, in quotes, he finished with about, let's say, 4.8 or thereabout, that's first class. But guess what? From year 1 to year 4, this guy was always on drugs. He uses ganja to read. So it's always I. So he can read, I can read 5 hours. He can do 24 hours reading, sitting. So that's danger. But with all his first class, this guy, as I speak to you, is not useful to the society. That's the danger. So the gap that was created at home was exploited while in the university. Now, this guy with his first class is not useful to the society.
So you hit a very interesting point, which I was going to talk about, the gateway factors. And I was hoping, Giwa, that you could also talk about that. How do drugs influence these gang violence or recruitments or dynamic?
Well, drugs are money. And the
drugs are money.
They are money. It's money.
It's serious business.
It's currency. It's serious business. And in fact, in the northeast and the northwest, it is the major, should I say, facilitator for bandits. You know, to perpetrate kidnappings, to perpetrate killings. So, and one of the major crimes that court gangs perpetrate, whether we like it or not, is drug trafficking, even in the southwest here. You know, and who do they do these things for? Where do they traffic these drugs to? Where are they bringing these drugs from? Who are they taking it to? Obviously, the political actors or local elites. You know,
so you just went there. So are you saying that there are political actors who are also involved in these drug trafficking?
There have been allegations of such.
Pretty much like we see in the movies, only this time it's not Italy or New York, it's Nigeria. So that's what happens.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Interesting. I have to ask you, Kende, before I go to Okweroluwa, we know we've talked about, you keep saying, you know, political actors, state actors. Where does the security lie in all of this? If you're saying that the state actors are complicit in the numbers we're seeing in terms of recruitment and perpetrations of crime by these cults, gangs, where is the security agencies in all of these? Do they not know them? Are they complicit? Do they not have intelligence so we can reduce the numbers? Because over 1,000 or more is wild.
Yeah, you've mentioned one key factor, which is intelligence, and the intelligence that is majorly focused on, or the, you know, the crime groups or the, you know, the crime gangs that are majorly focused on in this part of the world is terrorism, Boko Haram, banditry, ISWAP. You know, it's a chilling crime sect, the cult gangs. So in places like Lagos, there's increased police presence, there is, you know, increased security operatives because of the dense population. But when you get to the south-south, there is minimal security operatives that are deployed to forestall cult gangs. Of course, yes, they have more lethality rates in the south-south, but they also have little security operatives, you know, deployed for these operations. But in the southwest, that is the reason why we have little fatality in the southwest, because of more, you know, security operatives. So it's not like they are not aware, but they are deployed for, you know, greater, you know, greater insecurity challenges like, you know, terrorism, like armed robbery, like kidnapping, than cult gangs, which gives these cult gangs, you know, the ability to roam freely.
Okay, is it getting worse, or is it getting, is what's happening? Are the numbers increasing, or is it dwindling? And to add to that, what can organizations such as the one perhaps that you represent, or the ones you've worked with, do to help nip this in the bud? What is that bud?
You know, when you ask that question, is it going up or going down? For me, it's highly emotional. We are sitting on the gunpowder. It's beyond this discussion. The conversation is large. The space is huge. I was at Bagada early this year. We went for advocacy, as usual, because we deal more with prevention before they get into that space. Because when they get into that space, pulling them out is difficult.
What are the factors that spark it up? What are the factors that actually, you know, we've talked about drugs, we've talked about relevance. In your experience, what are these factors? And we've also talked about the void that happens inside of the house or the home. But what exactly is that one factor that would cause a young man to say, oh, tomorrow, you know, that's it, I'm going to go join a cult, in your experience?
In my own experience, the gap from home is still the major.
It's not a glorification of the gang itself, because there's a certain level of glorification that happens with these groups, right? And I remember back in school days, the young boys No matter, even the brightest one will be targeted, bullied into going in. The one who is wealthy will be targeted and going into it. He seems like a scene from a Nollywood movie, but it is true. You know, I was in school, I remember those times. If he was very handsome, he would be targeted. If he was charismatic, he'd be targeted. If he was like intelligent and bold, he'd be targeted.
Absolutely.
If he had money to fuel their lifestyle, he'll be targeted. If he had a car, he'll be targeted. If he was easy to be pried on, that's even the one they'll target. You know why? Because he's going to be lower ranking and he will do their biddings. So is it not the glorification of it or bullying? Does that not play into it as well?
Yeah, those are contributory parts. But we're talking about the foundation. The foundation. Yeah. You know, that particular... Okay, so I was with those secondary school students, and one of them opened up and said, my uncle influenced me to pick up this and transact or become an agent for a token. So what does that mean? It still fall back at that young stage.
The void. Yes.
The uncle already gave him that substance.
So but just what
he doesn't even know the contents.
Are you saying that beyond the foundations of the home, you can have a proper upbringing, you can have a good foundation, but you can get to school and you just want some form of relevance? Are you saying that doesn't happen?
Okay, now
it happens.
Now, this
beyond the foundation.
Another thing we must look at is that when we have like I was talking about the issue of history. Why am I talking about the history? It's still back to where it starts from. So if I get to school, what's my background? Now there's something called the visual art and the rest for the kids, for the younger, the teenagers. So what does that mean? What they see attracts them.
Oh, well, I have seen pastors' sons become brutes. I have seen people...
Is the pastor available at all?
No, wait.
It's never available. It could be. It's not available.
It's not available. And I think we have to... There are outliers in everything, right? You see the numbers. There are outliers in everything. That's what I'm saying. So there are people that this I'm telling you is fact, and it happens. The parent is there, the mother is there, they come from a loving home, they schooled abroad, they did everything. You see a child that comes from a wealthy background that never lacked, but so badly wants to become ghetto, so badly wants to look like he grew up in the streets, so he will have some credibility. It happens. I mean, let's not go too far. OBO, big shout out to you. He's a rich kid, but he so badly wants to be regarded as a
let's change our curriculum.
So there are outliers, right? So that's what I guess that's where we're coming from.
Let's change our curriculum also in the university to accommodate a lot of that enthusiasm. Like for instance, the tech space is very huge now. But the university are not tapping into it up to now. It's just normal theory, you read, you pass, that's all. But that tech space can also absorb that energy because they have so much energy. It's not their fault. The energy is ready to be exploited and it's ready to be explored. So the guys on campus already, they have enough room for you to explore your talent. So let's pull them into the tech space so that we can reduce the gang space.
Guys, I wish we could continue this. Mazina, you want to say something?
Oh, no, that was absolutely
I mean, we're pretty much out of time. We've been talking about SBM's intelligence report. It's Gangsters Paradise, Nigeria's restive youth gang crisis, 2020 to 2025. I love the title, Gangsters Paradise. You play that as well, right? Sign up. I'm also thank you to our guest, Opeoluwa Taiwo, is Executive Director at the Africa Bridge Initiative, and of course, Kehinde Giwa, who's been borrowed from our establishment to SBM Intelligence, Secret Analyst at SBM Intelligence. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen. That's all we can take. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, Mazino is on standby to bring you the headlines. Stay with us.
Good morning once again and welcome. My name is Mazino Appeal. Here are the headlines this morning. We begin with judicial matters. Now, the Federal High Court in Abuja has told the Nigerian Senate to recall suspended Kogi Central lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan. Delivering judgment in a suit challenging her suspension, the court found Akpoti-Oduaghan in contempt and directed her to pay a 5 million naira fine. Our judiciary correspondent Joshua Marai was in court and now he reports.
Justice Bintan Yaku of the Federal High Court in Abuja has delivered judgment in the case filed by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who challenged her 6-month suspension from the Nigerian Senate. While delivering the judgment, Justice Nyaku said the Senate can, and I believe should, recall the senator and allow her continue representing the people who sent her there. The judge also found Akpoti-Uduaghan in contempt of court for publishing a satirical apology letter addressed to the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. She was ordered to pay a 5 million naira fine. Counsel representing the Senate and the Senate President reacted to the ruling after the court session.
Speaking to the issue of contempt, the court held that it amounts to civil contempt and that the plaintiff is ordered to pay a fine of 5 million naira, to issue an apology to the court, and to have the said apology also published on the same medium within which the publication that offended the court was done.
The court only gave an opinion, an obiter dictum, what we call an obiter dictum, that the Senate should consider recalling her back. Although the reliefs are not stated, there's no question asking for suspension to be lifted because it occurred prior to the suspension. So it was more or less an obiter that she was of the view, my lord was of the view that the suspension was excessive.
Rights activist Aisha Yusufu also reacted to the judgment.
First of all, this morning coming to the court, the case was different from what we've seen before. People were stopped at the gate. It took a lot for them to even allow some of us to come inside. And of course, I wasn't inside the court. But from what you've heard the judgment. Well, I don't have issues with the court saying that the apology should be made to them. Well, the court has the right to do that as long as the apology is not to the Senate. Well, that's it. But on the other issue, where the judgment is that the Senate should recall her, how does that work?
With the court's ruling now on record, all eyes are on the Nigerian Senate to see its next course of action. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Barely a week after a truce was broken between Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the Minister of Federal Capital Territory Nyesom Wike, the Rivers Elders and Leaders Forum have appealed to President Bola Tinubu to lift the state of emergency imposed on the state as part of efforts to restore lasting peace. The forum described the recent political crisis between Governor Fubara, Minister Wike, and the Rivers State House of Assembly as unfortunate and deeply troubling, noting that it caused divisions and hampered governance in the state. The elders expressed hope that the terms of reconciliation, though yet to be made public, would align with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution and uphold the rule of law. Now to politics. The All Progressives Congress has dismissed the newly adopted African Democratic Congress platform, describing the 2027 opposition coalition as a group of deceivers and self-centered individuals driven by personal grudges. APC National Publicity Secretary Felix Walker made the remarks in a statement on Thursday, saying Nigerians are too discerning to fall for what he called the coalition's misguided agenda. The APC insists that President Bola Tinubu's government is delivering positive change and remains committed to steering the country toward growth and development. Now let's also tell you that human rights lawyer and activist Femi Falana says the newly enacted Lagos State Local Government Administration Law 2025 aligns with the constitutional principles and the Supreme Court's ruling on term limits. The new legislation, which repeals the 2015 Local Government Administration Law, introduces clear provisions on how a tenure of elected or successor chairman is calculated.
By virtue of Section 27, subsection 5 of the law, the question of unexpired term is another problem. Another one, if you complete the term of enemies, who might have been removed by impeachment, resignation, or death, whoever takes over to complete the term will be deemed to have run the full term. That is the purport of sections 27 and section 28, section 27 subsection 5 and section 28 subsection 4 of the new law. So the controversy surrounding the terms of office of previous local government officials, particularly chairman, is no longer.
Now, the Democratic Republic of Congo has pledged to dismantle the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda as part of a peace deal signed with Rwanda in Washington. Foreign Minister Therese Kayikwamba Wagner has stated that FDLR fighters will be encouraged to return home while those who resist will face military action. In return, the DRC expects Rwandan troops to withdraw from eastern Congo. The FDLR, formed by ex-Hutu leaders linked to the 1994 Rwanda genocide, is seen by Kigali as a serious threat. UN experts have confirmed that Rwanda's army has played a key role alongside M23 rebels in recent offensives seizing Goma and Bukavu.
Légitime, les troupes rwandaises n'ont rien perdu sur notre territoire, elles doivent rentrer chez elles. Question qui bloque du côté du Rwanda, apparemment, malgré le fait qu'ils ont une armée performante, malgré le fait que c'est le 4e pays contributeur de missions de maintien, dans les missions de maintien de la paix, c'est apparemment la menace des FDLR. C'est une menace? Très bien, on va y mettre fin. Et je pense que c'est ce qui est très important, le fait que cet accord se concentre sur ces deux points-là et nous aide à les élaguer. On va essayer de motiver les FDLR à retourner chez eux et ceux qui ne voudront pas se rendre, évidemment, feront face à des opérations militaires. Chose que nous avons déjà eue en République démocratique du Congo, encore une fois dans des formats différents et à chaque fois adaptés si vous voulez. Un retour de l'État congolais aux côtés des populations qui, pendant ces derniers mois, étaient livrées justement à des forces qui occupaient avec violence et avec force le territoire souverain de la République démocratique du Congo. Et donc quand on se projette dans l'avenir imminent de cet accord, c'est justement de cela qu'il s'agit. Le retour de l'État congolais aux côtés des populations civiles congolaises.
Now East Africa. Crops wither in war-torn Sudan as power cuts cripple irrigation farmers in war-torn Sudan. They have suffered massive crop losses and ongoing power cuts crippled irrigation systems, deepening the country's food crisis. Hatem Abdelhamid, a farmer in northern Sudan, said that he lost up to 75% of his crops this year due to prolonged electricity outage. His once thriving date palm farm has withered, and he remains helpless as the war disrupts critical infrastructure.
منذ أكثر من شهرين طبعا قطعت مننا الكهرباء. أنا والله أحلف صادق إنه من الكهرباء قطعت لأول يوم أدخل في المزرعة اللي أنتم شايفينها دي المزرعة دي حقتي زرعتها قبل 15 سنة تقريبا وكلها تمر قنديل من أجود أنواع التمر. وطبعا اتأثرت تأثير شديد جدا جدا زيها وزي أي بقية المزارع. مشينا لبابورات الجاز ذاته ما متوفر بصورة كويسة إلا بتصاديق وكده. والتكلفة الري بالنسبة للجاز والله تقريبا تضاعف يعني أكثر من 20 مرة مقارنة بالكهرباء. كنت بسقي ب 3000 ولا 4 الآن داير لي 60 و70 في الشرب الواحد. وما كل المناطق بتقدر أنت تسقيها ببابور الجاز. كمية الفاقد السنة دي من المحصول يا أخواننا تتراوح ل 70 75%. 70 75% من محصول السنة دي ما هو نافع كله. الآن نحن بنحاول وبنجاسف وبنكابد في أنفسنا على أساس إنه نبغى التمرة دي على قيد الحياة لحد ما شنو موضوع الحل الكهرباء دي يتحل.
And that's all the headlines we have for you this hour. Do stay tuned. We've got more coming your way, especially inside of Breakfast Extra. We'll have more conversation. Stay tuned.
And you're welcome back. It's time for us to get into something special. It's our weekend warrior. And today we celebrate a man who stood tall between the sticks, not just as a goalkeeper, but as a guardian of Nigeria's footballing pride. He was fierce, he was fearless, and when the Super Eagles flew high in the 1990s, it was Peter Rufai who anchored the skies. He's more than just a football icon, he's royalty in more ways than one. Nicknamed Dodo Mayana, Peter Rufai's story is a remarkable journey from the streets of Lagos to the grand stages of the Africa Cup of Nations, the World Cup, and European football leagues. He wasn't just playing football, he was defending the dreams of a nation.
Born in 1963, Rufai's goalkeeping journey began at stationery stores and moved swiftly into international waters. He played in Benin Republic, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Spain. He became Nigeria's first-choice goalkeeper in the 1990s and made over 60 international appearances, leading Nigeria to its first ever World Cup in 1994 and anchoring the team that won AFCON in 1994. Remember that iconic 1994 squad? Rufai was right there, commanding, composed, and also charismatic in goal. And let's not forget his unforgettable performance at the 1998 FIFA World Cup in France, where at 34, he still had the reflexes of a cat and the heart of a lion.
Oh, and yes, he did. But beyond football, Peter Rufai was also known for something few knew. He was a prince of Idimu in Lagos. Football royalty, actual royalty. A man who carried the pride of his heritage and the passion of his people in every dive, every punch, every save. After hanging up his gloves, Rufai didn't just walk away. He gave back through football academies and youth mentorship. He's been grooming the next generation, reminding them that greatness is a journey, not an accident.
So yes, indeed, Peter Rufai is a legend whose legacy lives on not just in our history books, but in every young Nigerian goalkeeper who dares to dream. He taught us that a true warrior doesn't just win matches, he wins hearts, along with those matches because we like the wins in the matches. And so today, we raise our hands, our glasses, our voices to celebrate a national treasure, the Super Eagle who soared, the royal guardian, the weekend warrior. Peter Rufai, we say thank you. Dodo Mayana, you made us believe.
Oh yes, indeed. You made us believe, and you showed that you could fly. Now, earlier this week, we had this nice package put together by our sports anchor, none other than Udoka Njoku. Take a look.
July 3rd, 2025. On a cold, eerie Thursday, death flew into the homes of sports stars and a legend. The dark wings of night crept upon Peter Rufai. The former Nigeria international goalkeeper died aged 61 following an illness. Fans fondly nicknamed Rufai Dodo Mayana due to his quick reflexes and acrobatic saves.
Out to the side, could this be the equaliser? No, great save. Rufai's in there.
He was a true pioneer of the Super Eagles' modern goalkeeping position. He played a major role in Nigeria's rise in international football, helping the country reach new heights in the 1990s. Born on the 24th of August 1963 in Lagos State into a royal family in the Idimu area, Rufai was known for his agility, calm presence in goal, and leadership skills. He earned over 60 caps for the Super Eagles and became the first Nigerian goalkeeper to score a goal and to play in the UEFA Champions League. Rufai's club career took him across several countries and leagues. He began playing professionally in Nigeria with Stationery Stores Football Club and Famous Scorpions, before moving to Benin Republic in 1986 with AS Dragons FC de Lueme. He then moved to Europe in the late 1980s, playing for Lokeren and then Beveren, both in Belgium. He also played in the Netherlands with Go Ahead Eagles and in Portugal with Farense. In 1983, he made his debut for Nigeria and went on to serve the national team for more than a decade. Rufai was in goal for the Super Eagles during their Africa Cup of Nations victory in 1994, helping Nigeria defeat Zambia 2-1 in the final.
And in the end, Nigeria, narrowly the stronger over 90 minutes, are the 1994 African Nations Cup winners.
That same year, Rufai was Nigeria's #1 goalkeeper at the 1994 FIFA World Cup, the country's first ever appearance at the tournament. In 1997, he made history by becoming one of the few Nigerian goalkeepers to play in the Spanish La Liga, where he played for Hercules and later Deportivo La Coruna. He ended his club career at Gil Vicente in Portugal. Rufai retired from international football after the 1998 World Cup. Rufai remained a respected voice in Nigerian football even after hanging up his gloves. Peter Rufai, the legendary shot stopper who stopped great footballers from scoring, could not stop death from scoring. Dodo Mañana joins a list of 3rd of July deaths, such as Diogo Jota, Andre Silva, and Borja Gomez. As the lights guide you home, we pray that your soul rests in peace. Go on and be heaven's shot stopper.
I want to pay a tribute to my late friend, legendary Peter Rufai. Quite unfortunately, we have to address him now as late, but it is what it is. May his soul rest in peace. Peter Rufai, that I knew, was a top professional, disciplined human being, jokes when he needs to, and be serious when he needs to. But having lost Rufai is a big blow and a big loss to the entire football community. Peter Rufai will always remain in the hearts of everyone for us. At this point, I want to say bye and continue to rest in peace.
For New Central TV, Udoka Njoku.
Now, Nigerians are demanding more transparency, more responsibility, and above all, better delivery of basic services. So today, on our big story, we bring the conversation to the grassroots. What's really going on with local governments? Why is service delivery so poor? And what will it take to turn things around? So we're joined by 4 very interesting guests with insights from finance, policy, and also administration. Our first guest is Oluwaseyi Kehinde, former financial secretary of the Labour Party in Lagos State. I will get a correction to that name in a bit. I beg your pardon. Joining us next is Niniola Adegoke. He's a respected public affairs analyst who has studied governance issues in Nigeria extensively. And also third guest is Onikeku Quadri, the former special assistant to the executive chairman of Coca Aguda LCTA in Lagos. And of course, finally, we have Mr. Femi Falowo. He is councillor candidate for Amur Odofin. All gentlemen, you are welcome. Grand to have you here. I'm spoiled for choice who to start with, but let me start with Mr. Niniola here. Mr. Niniola, first off, if we were to ask you to define what the essence of a local government is in Nigeria, especially how it affects the people and their connection to the government, how would you describe it? Would you say that it is properly functioning currently or that it needs help?
Well, let me start with this. Local government in Nigeria, all local governments in Nigeria presently are doing well compared with the past. Take Lagos State, for instance. We are going to use Lagos State as a template in this case. We have 20 local government, 20 LGAs and 37 FCTA. And what led to the FCTA is they look for way. The incumbent president look for means, to speed up the rate of development in Lagos State. And for that reason, the ideal of FCTA came in. That was between 1999 and 2007. And thank God that LCD is now is still in existence, and more states are buying the ideas. Lagos State, under the APC leadership, they are doing very, very well. Yes, I agree that Nigerians expect more when it comes to accountability, service delivery, and others. Take this for instance, in terms of primary health care. If you look at the various wards now, I'm from Agege. All wards in Agege now, they have their own primary health care. You don't have to go to the general hospital, which is the secondary, or probably go to the last for any basic treatment. And these structures, they are not just there, they are well equipped. You can try it today, visit any of the.
So in summary, would you say like...
Yeah, they are doing better. They are doing very well.
Are they doing good? Is there room for improvement then?
There's always room. In everything you are doing in life, there must be always room for improvement.
Well, let me come to Mr.
So
Shea.
APC is doing well.
Shea, the smirk on your face, first of all, but then again, let's ask you the same question. Do you believe that there's plenty of room for improvement when it comes to LCD, the local government? And let's also consider the connection of the people with their local government chairman, their local government officers. Do they even know what a local government is, or how it functions, or how it relates to them in governance?
Certainly the answers are staring us in the face, because oftentimes it's when you look at democracy and how it is designed to function, you'll see a problem when you get to the local government level. Number one, the people don't even know who the local government chairman is. So let's give an example. The local government chairman, let's say, for example, Ikeja, he doesn't live there. The local government is living, his chairman is living somewhere in Ikoyi or somewhere in Ireland. It's a contrast. And number two, if democracy is going to work, if people are going to have access to better services, he mentioned room. There's room for development. There's room for improvement. And there's a whole lot that needs to be done. If Nigerians are going to smell, if Lagosians are going to smell the benefits of democracy. Because what I see and what we see is that government only works for less than 10% of the people. Those who are the cronies, the governor, the people that are selected to manage local government. We're hoping with this election, maybe there will be a bit of freedom that will allow for initiatives, local solution to the issues of drainages, to the issues of environment, to the issues of social welfare, and to the issues of youth development. Go around your communities. You see young people in drug, helpless. What is the local government doing? And when you engage them, what you find out is that, oh, the government is centralized, is when the governor decides to look at you, depending on how much you can do, yes, sir. That's what determines.
Have you ever vied for office at the local government level yourself?
I mean, we have said 2027 coming. We have a lot of young people contesting in this election that is happening on the 12th of June.
And of course, with you, it doesn't matter which party these young people are from, does it? You just have youth representation.
Yes, we just have to have young people who live in those communities.
We've got a solution here, because Mr. Femi is actually contesting.
Fantastic.
So, Mr. Femi, you've just heard, especially what Mr. Shea said, and also please note what Mr. Niniola told regarding the needs of people at the local government level. As you're contesting for council, if I'm not mistaken,
you're right.
Under the SDP. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So what exactly would you be looking out for? What should be the main focus for anyone who is actually vying for office to the advantage of the citizens?
Like I've always said, people in my community know I've always been involved in youth engagement and participation. So I'm concerned about the youth. The youth have not been taken care of in our community.
This is which community exactly? Okay, because this is where I come from. I live in Festa.
Yeah, I've always been with the youth. I was born in Abuja. That's my heritage. So I'm not just coming, I've been there. So I know exactly, I know the nomenclature of the environment. So we have been in talks with the youth. Even before now, before the forthcoming election, we have done a survey as a media personality. In the neighborhood, we have so many challenges. The youth, no vocabulary engagement, no social welfare. You look at them in the morning, when you wake up, you don't want Monday to come. Because when Monday comes, people will see you. You will dodging. Because no engagement.
So your survey identified what exactly, especially in the Amuodofi area, what exactly do the people want?
The people want good representation.
Okay.
Someone that can prioritize their need. Someone that knows exactly what they need.
What are these needs is the question.
Number one, look at the roads. We have bad roads in Amuodofi. Look at Festac, where you come from.
Yes.
The roads are porous. So from there, look at other places. The whole of Festac is messed up. So we have people driving through that route. The cars are not working. Look at the health sector. The elderly people, they can't afford basic drugs. If you have an elderly person in your house or in your community, and you are very conversant with people, you understand that these drugs are too expensive. Nobody is talking about these things. People are just talking about the election. What about the people? Are the people not important? Now, I will tell you, when we even talk about the issue of security, that was another aspect, is alarming. If you check, I don't want to go into details so that I don't want to.
Oh, do feel free to.
If you check the issue, something happened in our environment generally. The security was just too porous. That was why I was going back to youth engagement, youth participation. When you leave your youth, you think when you have something to do, when you have election, that's when you need them.
Okay.
You are breathing, what are you breathing?
Okay. Okay.
So let's come back to our grassroots. That's why we have decided to come to change the narrative.
Okay.
So we are
okay. So Femi, I'm going to come back to you. Mr. Shea, I need you to note something on the character of local government representation for the people. I'm going to come back to you with that question. But Mr. Quadri, let's talk about succession. Succession when it comes to local government representatives. In Nigeria, even the citizens don't really know. I speak for the local area where I am, don't even know who their local government representatives are. Why is this a problem, and how does that affect succession? You have a situation where you have these representatives who purport to actually say, okay, we're representing the people, but the basic needs that the people need, like Mr. Femi has just said, like roads in Festac, for instance, and all across Lagos, or even all across Nigeria, they are still left there like as if there is no governance inside of these communities. So what gives there? How come there seems to be a very lackadaisical response to people's needs from the local government level?
Thank you once again. My name is Kodri, as I said, and thank you for having me. Well, I think basically, addressing your question, you talk about succession and the needs of the people. I want to use my own local government as a case study, Kokaguda, under former Sule local government. My brother has said a lot of things about what the sitting president did based on trying to break down the local government into LCDA and LGA. It is not news again that the local government is meant to be the closest to the people. And when you talk about the closest, for example, look at this all we are now. Look at this little space that we are using to talk. Look at all this empty space. What I'm trying to drive is that because it is too wide, the local government is too wide for one person to manage, and that is the reason why we break it down. Now that they are breaking it down, my local government as a case study, you come to Kokaguda now, in fact, Surulere as a whole, to the glory of God, a lot of development.
Okay.
Is there.
And are the people satisfied in Surulere?
Human need.
Like healthcare, like
okay,
schools,
you want me to talk about
amenities.
Healthcare in my own local government, like you said, we have 7 wards in the entire local government.
Sorry, before you go too far, let me redefine this. If I live in Surulere and I have a need, how do I go about making sure that my local government representative is aware of it? Do I have to actually even do that, or would they already use their own initiative to say the people need so and so? What is the listening ear that the representatives have for the people?
Thank you very much. Let me answer that question by saying that part of the foresight of the current president was to have a CDA. Inside the local government, we have various CDAs. These CDAs are the closest to anybody. no matter where you stay, you must have a landlord association in your area, which they are part of the CDA. If there is any need at all, you discuss there through the CDAs, comes direct to the local government, through the councillor. And to the glory of God, in my own local government, everybody that have served in that local government till today still reside in that local government. I don't know why it happened like that, but I believe that if you want to have a proper and meaningful representation, you must live within. And do you know why? I use my own case, my own as an example. During NSAS, if we are not on ground, a lot of things must have happened. We saw a lot of burning and stuff around.
So for representation to happen, first of the representatives must live within that community. I think you noted that, if I'm not mistaken, Shay. But then I did say I was going to come back to you regarding the character of these representatives inside of these local government areas. One would argue, there are many of these arguments out there, that the reason why people seek these offices, and this goes to everybody, is because they have, well, financial interests, that they want to make money out of the position. First off, is this true or is this wrong? Am I correct?
You are absolutely 100% correct. Because if you check the character, if you engage, you would see that the first thing that happens at the local government is that a governor wants to have his own cronies. When money comes, go to local government across Nigeria and engage. Let me give you an example in Ogun State. For example, some things happened last year where a local government chairman was trying to, stand up for his own people, demand for accountability, and get things done in Ogun State, somewhere I think in Ijebu also. And this same thing also happened in Lagos State. Ali Moshow, for example. I know that the local government, the guy who was there was suspended because the resources that came from Ali Moshow, that happens to be the biggest local government in Lagos State, he was asking for more share of the representation, of the reforms to go to development in that. He was suspended. He had to go and beg. So these are some of the things. So number one, people are not allowed to express themselves. So there's no innovation. There's no character. You have to just be there and listen to whatever they tell you. And even you cannot even, because there's no competition. But for local government to work, there has to be competition. People must be able to come up with their own local solution to the problem in that environment. And the idea of somebody sitting somewhere, in Abuja, in State House, one senator sit down in one place, who lives maybe far away in Badagry, or let's say he's representing Lagos Central, is determining the person who will be local government chairman in Agege or in Ikeja, where he doesn't engage the people. They take somebody from, let's say, Lagos mainland to go and be a chairman in Ekpe. It doesn't work. So the people themselves know the people who are passionate about the need of the people. That is how you are going to get it solved. So the character of the people you mentioned needs to be brought to the forefront. Without having people who have character such as leadership, empathy. When we talk about capacity to actually, capacity to actually solve the problem. Because these problems are local.
Yes, exactly. Indeed, and that's what we're talking about. We have so much to talk about, so I'm really trying to manage time here. One of which is actually local government autonomy. So I'm going to be coming to that. But to wrap this up about character of individuals who are vying for offices at the local government level, I want to talk to Mr. Niniola here. How can we, or is there a process with which to sift through these characters that are vying for these offices to know that, fine, this person is not going because they want to accrue wealth for themselves? What process there lies in?
Well, when it comes to leadership recruitment process, in my party, we have a very good and fantastic leadership recruitment process. But before coming to that, let me quickly react to what he said.
Go ahead.
Concerning a particular local government chairman at Abuja who was suspended. You see, when you want to win people's hearts, you don't need to fabricate story. So what he said is completely out of what exactly transpired.
Tell us what transpired then.
What transpired is this. There is a particular land that people are using in the community for markets. And this land belongs to a Jigbadero family. And it has been in existence for years. But it's under the local government in terms of management. There is a management process in place.
Okay.
In a situation whereby Delhi, who happens to be, that is the outgoing local government chairman, he tried to manipulate some certain things. And the State House of Assembly called him into order.
Okay.
Do you understand me now? It has nothing to do with local government resources. So when you want to speak on something...
What exactly did he try to manipulate?
Hold on. He tried to manipulate on the management of the market.
Okay.
Do you understand me? And the entire Lagos State House of Assembly correct him, put him in order, tell him
this
that
manipulation was for his own advantage.
It was for his own advantage and his own
It feeds into what we're talking about.
Let me give you...
Going for offices in local government. This feeds into what we're talking about when we talk about the character of people going into vying for office in the local government area. And I asked you exactly what processes lie in...
The character you made mention. The character you made mention. You see, theoretical politics is different from practical one. You that you are interviewing us, when you get to that place, the story will change the following day. I'm putting it to you. If you don't have such in mind, just put it somewhere that in future, if you're going to any political office, then prepare for something different.
Do you think you would change if you were to be given...
Change in what way?
Well, like you have just said, if I was to be in that situation...
Definitely, I'm going to change positively. Change is constant. Okay. And let me quickly talk about the character you made mention. You see, you made mention of capacity, foresight, leadership, responsibility to show that responsibility. None of the candidates on APC list presently, or probably the previous one, that lack those characters. Okay. But you see, our society is corrupt to the extent that corruption is of different forms. Most people see politicians as a corrupt set of people. But trust me, the people outside there, the public, many of them that are not holding any political offices, they are even more corrupt than the one in the office. Although I'm not glorifying corruption. Okay. Don't get me wrong. This is how it works. You see, when your leader says, okay, this is what is available in our community, let's make use of it. In terms of palliative, let me use palliative for instance. Okay. The local government cannot be, local government chairman is not living in all the streets, but is residing in the community. What the local government chairman will do is to delegate people to manage all these things. Do you understand me? It has different stages. It's like a chain process. Okay. Do you understand me? Different stages. You need to delegate people. Those people will also delegate to some set of people to make sure that they distribute it down to the people at the grassroots. No matter how smart, no matter how sophisticated the technology may be, you cannot capture all of them.
Are you for local government autonomy?
I'm 100%.
100%. Let me come to our councillor here or a future councillor.
But permit me, Mr. Mazino.
Yes, please.
Permit me, please, to react to something. My brother made mention of road, and you also made mention of road. You know, learning is a continuous process, and we can teach each other here. Okay. Issue of road is not part of the duty of the councillor.
Okay, do explain.
Yes. You see, councillor is just like a regular State House of Assembly member. It's the oversight function. They are doing the oversight function. They lack the capacity to renovate or to construct roads. These are the things.
Can they represent the people's needs, however?
Definitely.
Then that's it. That's what they're. That's what they.
I thought you.
No.
Probably it wouldn't be. You cannot go to your community and be saying you want to construct roads.
Femi,
we advocate for the needs of the people.
Okay,
yes, exactly.
okay.
Why we are in
okay. If it is the word advocate, no problem. Go ahead. I'm here today.
We're on the same page then.
Yeah.
So let's talk about local government autonomy now. The federal government is pushing for local government autonomy. It seems like this is going to happen. If it happens, Femi, what's going to be different from the way our local government functions right now? Is it going to make anything any better?
Well, to be very realistic with you, that's a good step in the right direction for the local government autonomy, but it still depends on the person in charge of that office. That's why you need to bring in credible people. People that understand the nomenclature, that understand exactly what the people want. People that, not just saying it's practical things. Have you done a survey? For me, I did a survey in Amuodovin Ward 82. I met with several people, old, aging from 10, 15, 20, 40, you know. So for me, I know what they want. Little things, that's why we call it grassroots. Little things like soccer way, that's grassroots. Community policing, that's grassroots. Youth empowerment, that's grassroots.
Is local government autonomy not opening the way for racketeering, for instance, with all the IGL that each community would bring in?
No, me, I don't
state?
believe that is opening a way. That's a good, that's the right step in the right direction.
But Mr. Niniola here just talked about the corruption that persists
that's why
inside
I
of
was
the
saying
Nigerian
that
system.
people to come out on election day and vote for that person, the credible candidates who they believe they know in their community that have been staying with them for so long that they can say, I can guarantee this man.
Mr. Quadri is itching to say
I don't know
something.
what
You are. I want to hear what Mr.
I don't like
Mr.
mixing
Quadri.
wells. I don't like mixing wells.
I think I should be very sincere and plain here. The person sitting beside you, I'm going to be a two-term councillor from Abuja.
Okay.
And I appreciate the ideas. But my brother here has said a lot of things. It is a different ball game entirely when you enter the system. Don't get me wrong. It does not mean that there is no room for improvement. There is serious room for improvement. But I said one thing, I'm going to say one thing now, and I want to use that Amuodovin as a case study. The House of Rep in Amuodovin now is from Labour Party. And my brother, I don't know if you are always getting in touch with him, and he has personally told you what he has done. From using that from that National Assembly back to this to Amuodovin. You complain about bad road. In my local government, for example, this current House of Rep member in my local government has done, as at 2 years now, has done nothing less than 35-50 roads in the local government. And I expect him, a Labour person from Amuodovin, to have used that office the same way mine is using it. I don't know how he's getting it done. I don't know how he's getting it done. But and if you are talking of bad road now, when you come to Sule as a whole, for example, when we have like 100 roads, I can tell you authoritatively, less than 20 is bad. When we have 100.
Let me jump to Mr. Shea. While I'm going to give you a right of reply, I also want to push this in regarding local government autonomy. If this changes, is this going to help with the situation of needs for the people, for example, bad roads and power? But you can reply and then put that in.
So let me quickly reply. The Labour Party representative in Amuodovin at the Lagos State House of Assembly is Honorable Foluke Oshafele. We actually won the 2 constituency, but somehow they took the second one at the tribunal. She's the only opposition in that house. And I know that she has pushed several bills. You know how the State House of Assembly works. You have to put through your bill, it has to go into the budget, and it has to be fixed by the state government. So that has been done. And we're hoping that the implementation will be done by the State Ministry of Works, which directly works with the governor. We are constantly, she holds town hall meetings severally. And the Federal House of Reps.
Where does she hold these town hall meetings?
Yeah, I remember.
Where exactly? Because
town hall meeting without presence of the media.
That's
there was. You may not be aware. You don't live there.
Apart from the media, I live there.
You live there.
I live there. And I can't say that I haven't heard of any of these town hall meetings.
It does happen.
If I haven't heard of it, then doesn't that point to a systemic problem where there is no communication with the people they're supposed to represent, and therein the problem we're talking about here today?
There is communication, but you see, at times, maybe the medium in which some of these representatives use to pass their message needs to be more broader. For example, I'm sure if you had come to the TV like News Central to advertise that we're having a town hall meeting on so, maybe you will have heard, right? And that would have, you know, broadened the conversation. But let me go back to your earlier question that has to do with if the autonomy for the local government, how will that impact governance and the local government level? I think it's a good step. And to make that work, is going to be dependent on the citizens themselves. Once I know that the president have, you know, done that, the State House of Assembly now are conducting elections. Sorry, the state governments, like in Lagos State now, because of that bill, they are forced to conduct this local government election. Certainly, this will change a lot of things. And this is the reason why, for us in Labour Party, and we're also involved in the coalition, we're interested in this local government election. Because that is the only way the people of Nigeria, Lagosians, core Lagosians, are going to see governance. That is where the issues will be solved. Because the bureaucracy are too much in governance. If you go to the state government, you go to even the local government, like the process he explained, having to go through
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you short because I really must get a couple questions in before we run. And I can see he is actually staring to say something. But before you do, I wanted to ask, why is it, and this is a personal question, and I'm going to drop my tab so I'm not reading from there.
All right.
Why do local government chairmen get rich after they assume office?
Get what?
Rich.
Rich. Okay, good. I'm going to react to your question, but let me, he made mention of something earlier, including my brother, concerning the youth empowerment. You see, all the 57 councils are doing youth and women empowerment regularly, and it's a must for them. Let me tell you the budget process. Before they draft budget, they call the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? The main mention of the CDC, the CDs, the artisans, market people. Call them together to the council. Tell them that, okay, ask them, what exactly do you want? Tell us, we know how to put it together. So they all prepare the raw information while the local government official process that raw information and make it a concrete data. So it's that data that we now input in, used to prepare budget. That is why that when the budget is ready, you see some roads are being attended to, some are not. Depend on the resources of the local government.
Do these have to be ratified? Are there any bureaucratic?
Yes, there is a process.
Now to bring back the local government autonomy.
That is where I'm going to bring the local government autonomy in. Immediately the budget is ready, it goes to the councillors for ratification. And after that, they are still taking the same document to the Lagos State House of Assembly. PESA or some PPAC, you understand me now? Just for them to overlook the prepared document and see those ones they executed, those ones they didn't execute, and the reason behind those things, and the way they manage the resources. Now, that is to check the local government officials. As regards the local government autonomy, one of the benefits is this. The number one benefit is that more resources will be available at the local level.
Yes.
Do you understand me? He said something about the youth being on the streets. You see, it's a practical thing. I'm going to use animal, and I'm going to use woman as an example as well. If you have food for the animals here, obviously those animals there will migrate to this place because of that food. True. Do you understand? The same thing also applicable to we human beings. Our people are going to United States, to EU country for the greener pasture because they believe that their economy there is flourishing better than the one at the local level here. That is that. Now, the main reason we have many youth on the streets there is that every time those local government chairmen are tending to the youth on the street, it might not be all of them. Do you understand me now? The more people are coming in to the Lagos State, we are having influx of people in Lagos State. And the autonomy now, we make more money available, more issues will be attended to. The local government chairmen will be able to go ahead with some sophisticated project.
And this is why
and you said something about that. You said something about being rich.
This is this is why I actually asked those questions in succession, and actually all plays right into this regarding local government autonomy, the character of people, and exactly who represents us. Why do they get rich is the question that I asked. Because if we now put into play local government autonomy, aren't we just simply handing over every single resource to the local government chairman?
Yes.
What do you think? So is it a good thing at the end of the day?
Let me tell you something. Local government autonomy, my answer still remains the same. It's okay. It's good. It's a good development. Now, as regard being rich after office, what exactly is the anti-graft agencies are doing? They are not being paid to sleep. Do you understand me now? They are to watch all public office orders. Let me, probably you don't know.
What department is responsible for vetting these characters? That
Okay, let me tell you. All right, let me, okay, good.
Anti-graft agencies.
Good. The process is this. Before you get to the office, the DSS will screen you. Are you a police college? Bureau, code of conduct. Code of conduct opposite police college in Keja. We also take notes of certain things.
On the spot query now.
I'm coming. Let me tell you the basic thing those people are doing.
Have you been vetted? Have they inquired into your assets? As you are perhaps maybe planning to run for council?
For now, LASEC.
So there are these functions in place. Yes. All right, please continue.
This is not the function of the LASEC. It needs to visit the DSS. Am I lying?
Yes.
You need to visit code of conduct if you have not done that. Include everything that you have in your house, including your spoon. You have to make mention of it. You understand me? And then after office, after you finish, you serve your people and you finish your office, if they know that something is wrong, then they can go back to your document and vet it and say, what is exactly going on? Do you understand me? The way it's happening at the national level is the same thing is happening at the local level. Okay. But the problem most of us is having is because we lack information. As some of us doesn't even make any attempt to make inquiry about it. Okay. You said something about your local government chairman that you don't know. You don't have to know your local government chairman. I'm coming. Okay. You work towards it. If you don't know your local government chairman, you walk to the council. It's a free world. That place belongs to everybody residing in that community.
Well, make inquiry. Security, it's not that easy to get into your local government council because they always
what is not easy there.
And I have tried.
It's very easy.
This will be your last statement because we're out of time.
It's very easy to say these things. They are easy on TV. We all know. The local government chairman is surrounded with security. You go to the office to see your local government chairman, the aggressiveness is even there. The people who surround them say, why do you want to, why are you here? You know, some of this
Which local government is that? You have to be particular.
I see, I live in the community, I grew up here.
Which
I am
local government?
Notion. I don't need to mention,
you have to be specific. You don't need to generalize.
And let me tell you, if we're going to get it right, I am happy about this autonomy. And what I hope going forward is that the people will be allowed to select their own leaders. This election in Lagos, we're hoping the election will be credible. That is when we're going to see proper representation, voted by the people. Because what you have tried to explain local government in Lagos. None of them has been elected. They have been selected, handpicked. And we know that. And that's the reason why in your party, in APC, in Lagos State, what I'm telling you is that, look, with this new election that we see coming, we hope that young people who are aspiring to lead their people, who are contesting in that election, will be allowed so that they can deliver proper representation to their people. It's simple.
Thank you very much, Shay. Mr. Kadri, this will be your last
anyway, my last comment. I think I want to stress here that, yes, I also support local government autonomy, but with some addition, if possible. I believe that all local government need what we call a political empowerment as well. And what do I mean by that? Is that when we talk about check and balances, the local government councillor are meant to checkmate the local government chairman. But I know that they don't have that autonomy to do so. So So I will also use this medium to appeal to our people that if it's possible, let them give them that power. I mean the local government councillor, so that at the end of the day, there will be a check and balance of this local government autonomy that we are talking about. Financial autonomy is important because we talked about good road, even training of the staffs. We need that as well. So if this can come and there is a way we check and balance it, I think it will do a lot of things for us. And finally, before I drop,
real quick, please, real quick.
My brother talked about we have been picking people in Lagos State.
That's a big fallacy.
That is for me. I was elected twice.
You may not agree, but
I was elected twice in local government.
All right. There's no place else to go but to you, Femi, because we're talking about councils, we're talking about check and balances. What do you have to say before we close the conversation?
Well, in conclusion, I only have a message for my people,
which is
in Amuodo of Ward A2, that the time is right for them to come out and decide who they want to lead them. Because right now,
Well, I won't let you campaign at this point, but we do get your entry. Thank you very much. Mr. Niniola, you just whispered my name.
All right, real quick,
Mr. Niniola.
All right, thank you.
Out of time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mazino. I really appreciate and I also appreciate my brothers. But I want to tell them that if truly they want to go far in politics, they have to involve in practical politics. When I say practical politics, you see, there are some things that they'll tell you in class when you get to field is a different thing entirely. And as regard our administration process in Lagos State, at the local level, believe me, APC is doing extremely well. But I believe there is room for improvement. And the present local government administration law signed by the governor, if you have the opportunity to go through it, you will know that so many things have been amended. And Lagos State House of Assembly is doing very well and is reviewing.
Fantastic, Mr. Niniola. I wish we had an entire hour to have this conversation because it was gearing up to be quite a fiery one. But thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Niniola. Thank you, Mr. Quadri, and thank you, Femi. We will have this conversation very soon again, especially as we move toward 2027, when people actually have to
make more time
and even the elections that are up, you know. So we will definitely be having perhaps all four.
Make more time available.
Yes, more time.
Thank you very much. So do stay tuned. We've got more conversation coming your way for Breakfast Extra.
Hey, welcome back. Now this morning, we're tracking the shockwaves from Washington, D.C. to the Global South. As reports confirm, the Trump administration has moved to shut down the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. For decades, USAID has served as the backbone of America's foreign assistance, funding education, health, agriculture, women empowerment, and democratic governance in developing nations, particularly in Africa. Now, with these sudden policy shift, billions in donor support are hanging in the balance, and development programs across Nigeria and the continent are bracing for impact. From small community health initiatives in Adamawa to major gender-based violence interventions in Lagos and water sanitation projects in Cross River, the knock-on effects are real, immediate, and potentially devastating.
So, what does this mean for Nigeria's development sector? How will NGOs and partner organizations survive this dramatic aid cut? And what are the political implications on global scale? Joining us, we've got guests here with first-hand experience in development communication and also global politics. First, we have Esther Hadiza Ijaku, Principal Consultant, Skill Hub Consulting, and also we have joining us Joy John, International Political Analyst. We will also be expecting Arrow Leonard from Cleverco, and he will be, well, giving us his own insight into the matter. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. Now, I'm going to start with Esther. Esther, I'm hoping that you can hear us. When you first heard that the USAID was being shut down by the Trump administration, what was your initial reaction?
Good morning, and thanks for having me on the show, talking about something really important. Just going straight to your question, when the news hit, I was in shock. Not because it was totally unexpected, because if you've worked in the sector for a really long time, like I have, you would know that funds for projects had been shrinking for the longest time. I would even say as far back as 5 years ago. And jobs were going, projects were getting shorter, and funding was getting smaller. But the announcement by the American government of the cut of USAID, or the pause, the 90-day pause, to just think about what they wanted to do, was shocking because they're the biggest donor, I think, globally. So the implication is far-reaching. Usually we like to think that it's only NGOs that are impacted by it. I know people that were very happy, and I know people who said, okay, now let's see whether you guys have good ideas or you really do what you said. The passion will carry you through, you know. But there's a whole ecosystem that depends on the funding that the USAID brings to Nigeria. And I think we will feel it, not just the development sector. Communities will feel it, government will feel it, private sector vendors will feel it. Other donors also are feeling it because the pressure has just gone up on a global scale. So generally speaking, shocking, but the realization that truly that's their logo, because in Skill Hub Consulting, we always refer to that logo that says "from the American people," is actually a privilege, not a right. So we have actually come into the reality that this was a gift. This is by choice. And if it's not there, then what do you do? So it's a shocker, and I think the realization of the impact and how far-reaching it is has only begun. And unfortunately, I would say it will get worse before it gets better.
Esther, I'm very concerned when you say we will feel it, and then you follow that with it will get worse. Exactly how does it manifest, these cuts?
Okay, so I think it was almost like pulling the plug on a lifeline, right? There are development projects that USAID was funding in different thematic areas. So you have whether it's water and sanitation, emergency response, that's the humanitarian side of things, just responding to emergencies. But for development over time, they've been funding things like gender-based violence, even democracy and governance. Why I say that we'll feel it, let me give you a quick example, is elections will come in 2027. Usually during the life cycle of elections, by 2 years to the time, there's a frenzy. USAID is talking about democracy and good governance. They have released their request for proposals. People are giving ideas of what they want to do to increase participation, to get excluded groups to participate, like women in politics. Now, that is off the table. That is just a simple example to tell you that down the line, when it's close to elections, it will be a case of, but you guys, you used to have programs, you used to come and do this, you used to train and advocate for certain things. The funding will not be there unless we come up with something real quick and pivot. We will all feel it. That's what I mean, just using that simple example. We will feel it down the line.
All right. We're being informed that Aro Leonard is going to join us shortly. But in the meantime, let me come to you, Joy. I mean, the big question here is, why did the Trump administration decide to cut or shut down USAID, and why now? Joy, we cannot hear you.
You might be muted, Joy. You might be muted. Oh, yes.
Okay,
there
so
we go.
We're breaking up here.
So, Joy, if you can hear me, I was asking. Yeah, I was asking about why the Trump administration has decided to shut down USAID, and why now?
Okay. Well, I'm going to. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Well, only those inside the administration can speak to the timing of this decision. But of course, it didn't come as something new with Trump 2.0. What we do know that it's a prerogative of any administration to reassess their foreign assistance. this move now aims at aligning aid with more strategic interests. And that said, I know the reactions have been divided, with many welcoming this as a targeted approach, but others are very, concerned about the long-term development impact, just like Esther highlighted in her statement.
All right. Now, Joy, as we're talking about, this, we also do have to look at, what this means for U.S. as a global leader. Where does the U.S. stand in all of this? You think that as they're cutting down, because that means Africa, their influence of Africa, if they're removing the USAID in Africa, their influence will sort of recede, and that would open more markets or more ways for, of course, China and most eminent at this point, Russia. What do you think about this?
Well, that's a valid concern, but it's not a simple cause and effect. Yes, China and Russia are expanding, but I think African nations or African, leaders or leadership in Africa also value long-standing U.S. partnerships built on education, health, and security cooperation. A shift in this aid policy, what was stripping, of the assistance from USAID, might create room for others to step in, but I think the soft power that the U.S. has, the trusted institutional ties, still gives the U.S. Meaningful edge in Africa regardless.
All right. Joy, thank you very much. We're told that Arrow Leonard has joined us. Arrow, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. I wanted to note some things that Esther said. Esther noted that, well, this is going to pinch us. This is going to actually become more evident as we get down the line closer to the elections. Now, Mr. Arrow, there are certain people who actually do not see this as a blessing. Some people actually believe that it's about time for the USAID to pack up and leave. They applauded it when the Trump administration cut funding to the USAID and then further on to Africa. Well, what are your sentiments regarding the situation, Mr. Arrow?
Personally, I think we're sorry about the network challenges, first of all, and it's good to be here. I think that sometimes such kind of development makes us lazy as a country, and it makes us not look inwards. Now, yes, my colleagues in the sector, we all miss the funds, and it's definitely going to cause a lot of problems, but the only reason why it's causing a lot of problems is because of the lack of planning we've had in Nigeria over time and our lack of ability to look inwards and strategize. As far back as 2009, I was part of the team that went to South Africa to study the South Africa HIV strategy and campaign. And as far back as then, South Africa had 70% locally. The funds for all projects were 70% local and 30% foreign. Whereas in Nigeria, we'll be talking about 80% foreign. But that is not even the issue, not just the funding, it is the idea itself. Most projects are initiated from outside the country that don't even really speak to what we need in the country. So that's the kind of thing. We just sit down, lay back, and wait for donor fund to come, or whatever they tell us to do, we do. And that's why we keep going round and round in the same circles over and over again. Way back, 1999, I was part of the, I shot the team, the Senate Committee on Niger Delta, when the NDC was about to be set up. Just speaking with the mobile officials alone in Akwa Ibom State, you could see a lot of things that they've done. In Nigeria, we have a certain percent of the budget that goes for certain projects. 3% goes for ecological fund, and so on. You have education tax, you have special tax for development that is given to the oil companies, and so on. Now, what stops us from really harnessing these funds and planning and being strategic about how those funds are to be used? Identify key sectors where these funds should be used, and then plan towards it. We'll find out that in Nigeria we have enough money to take care of some of these needs. Why would it be that USAID just stops and then the entire HIV treatment sector in Nigeria would just collapse. It means that the government is not doing what it's supposed to do. And it's better it stops now, just the same way subsidy was taken away from us, so that we'll see the realities of what it is and start doing what we should do. We have enough funds in Nigeria. If we plan properly, harness all these funds, there are lots of investors here, set out this kind of, for instance, the philanthropists we are talking about that are coming from the US and everywhere.
All right.
They only send money into those coffers because of waivers the American government has set in. We could do the same in Nigeria, collect the same money and strategically plan for what kind of development it should be used for.
All right. I must have to ask you, Esther, because he just cited a very, very crucial matter that Nigeria faces, and pretty much all of the continent of Africa faces, and that's the HIV prevalence, right? And how it's still not being more of a local concern, and the USAID and other donors have to step in to support communities and affected persons. And so what then is now a local contingency, that can help navigate this time as USAID have now cut, donor funding? What will happen? What are local contingencies or funding or development organizations like yourself are doing to aid in this time being, pending when the government maybe redirect funding to issues like these?
Well, thank you very much, and I quite align with quite a bit of what Aro had said, especially around planning. I think it goes without saying, generally in Nigeria, we always talk about poor planning and poor maintenance, lack of tracking. There is no project that USAID or any donor would have funded that doesn't have a plan in place. But whether that plan is followed and whether that sustainability that we claim that we're kind of integrating into the project design is being implemented or not is the big question. Now, for me, this is a test. We talk about being sustainable, we've done it for 5 years, we can continue, and all of that. Now is the time that we will see whether those sustainability measures that we put in place are going to work or not. That said, in terms of contingency, I think it would be unfair in some ways to say, okay, now that they've unplugged it, let's go and figure yourself out, right? Even the whole country, we are not isolated. These programs are not isolated. The problems are not isolated. HIV cuts across everywhere. So if we're talking about solutions, we have to look at solutions from the big picture. How are we doing as a country in terms of how the government is rolling out its programs, how it's putting its finger on the pulse of what the priorities are for the regular Nigeria like yourself and myself, and what resources are being put aside for that work. That said, we should even think about novel ways or innovations around funding the work that we do. For us in Scale Up Consulting, we've been talking about funding sources. Why are we dependent on charity? Why must we wait cap in hand for funding to be given to us? We need to explore things like social enterprise. We need to explore partnership with the private sector. This morning, as I was thinking through, just before I came on the program, I was thinking, why can't government collaborate with pharmaceutical companies that can produce some of these medicines that are needed?
All right.
And have an arrangement, So we have to be innovative. We have to think ourselves out of the box because that's the only choice we have now. And usually that helps. It forces you to think and to do something different to have a better result.
Thank you. Joy, you've been following this administration closely, and so I do have to ask you, it's my final question for you as we wrap up the hour. Do you think you've been watching the Trump administration closely, do you ever see a time where there will be a reversal on this EO regarding, USAID? Joy, can you hear me? John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. So I have to play, there's just a lag in the questions coming in. So You asked if it will be a normal in the America's foreign policy?
Yes, I was asking if there will ever be a reversal on this executive order of shutting down USAID. Will the Trump administration reverse the executive order on stopping USAID to Africa?
We have struggled with network connection all day. Could you please repeat that? I'm going to actually try to play that on a different device to see if I can hear the question.
Okay. I was asking, do you think that the U.S. administration will reverse the decision?
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. I get it now. I'm sorry. If I keep cutting in, I apologize to your viewers. So it's a very difficult thing to predict at this time. With this administration, it's done. Done and dusted. It is done. I wish there was a better way to put it across, but there's no bending back with this right now. For future administrations, if a different government comes in or a different party takes over, they may adjust the scope of the messaging, but the broad trend towards a strategic, measurable age is likely to remain. If this was won by the Democrats, we probably would have seen a different approach. I don't think we would have gotten here. But there's a growing bipartisan interest in accountability and sustainability in foreign assistance. And what that means, or whether that means more or less aid, will depend on how the global dynamics and domestic priorities continue to evolve. But I want to piggyback on what Esther had earlier said. I think that it's also a wake-up call for African governments. It's a wake-up call for African nations to stop relying on foreign aid. We have so many resources in Africa. We're blessed with so many natural resources. I would love to see, the African Union come in. I want to see the leaders take hold and stop begging for foreign assistance. This is really a blow to most African nations. We've come too far to still be depending on this or to be debating this. So in the long run, I think that we can't start predicting what they will do or hanging on to ifs or buts. We just have to take it as it is at this moment.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Joy John, our guest today, international political analyst. Also joining us was Aro Larnard there, as well as Esther Hadiza Ijaku. She's a principal consultant, Skill Hub Consulting, and also Aro Larnard, who is a development communications expert, Clavaro. There we go, communications. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Now, do stay tuned because we have one more conversation coming your way inside of Breakfast Extra before we call it a Saturday morning. We'll be back. Welcome to Focus Africa, where we dive into the biggest political, economic, and also diplomatic developments shaping the continent. This morning, we turn our attention to Central Africa, where a major development is unfolding. In what is being described as a rare diplomatic breakthrough, the governments of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have reached a peace deal after years of hostility, I know, and also cross-border accusations. And let's not forget the devastating violence in the eastern Congo. The agreement, brokered with support from regional allies and also international partners, aims to de-escalate tensions, withdraw foreign-backed militia, and also establish joint monitoring frameworks.
But as history has shown, peace on paper doesn't always translate to peace on the ground. So is this deal a genuine turning point or just another chapter in the long, complicated dance of diplomacy? Joining us now is someone who has spent years studying the political economies of fragile states, Dr. Brian Rubin, Executive Chairman of the 16th Council and founder of the Africa Economic Summit in London, UK. He joins us live this morning. Dr. Brian, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with the headlines. DR Congo and Rwanda have agreed to a peace deal. From your analysis, is this a real breakthrough or just another temporary fix?
Well, thank you for having me. That sounds like a good news, actually, considering the enormous cost this war has had for years. It's been on for years. Over 6 million lives has been lost, over 20 to 24 billion in mineral theft. And the DRC economy, it's supposed to be, I mean, the minerals they have, the resources they have can safely guarantee a $400 to $500 billion economy, but they are stuck at 70 billion. One of the worst, regarded as one of the worst poorest countries. So it has had a serious cost implications on the country, not just the country, but the continent. So this surely sounds like a good news. The trouble, however, is that this is not the first time we are seeing a peace treaty, being reached. It's happened over 6 times, beginning, with the Lusaka ceasefire, and then the Sun City, and all of that. So this has been on for years, and each time at this point, it eventually fails to deliver the expected results, and the country continues to suffer. All right, there's even a cost on the neighboring countries, which they'll have to militarize their countries just because of this crisis. So this sounds like a good news, but I'm worried, right? I'm worried because except we realize that the war itself is not a problem. It is what the war is powering that is really the problem. For example, the minerals that are looted out of this country, all right? The war enables that. So until you are able to deal with that business model that the war has enabled, it becomes very difficult to fix it, right? And so I'm hopeful that this can be a real turning point, really, because it does seem that the United States isn't just getting involved for the sake of involvement. The U.S. is looking after its own national interests, all right? Access to critical minerals and countering the influence of China in the region. So to that extent, that could be hopeful, but there are a few things that must, be strengthened. For example, the rebel group M23 isn't yet they're not a part of this signatory, right? And there are still talks ongoing as to how to, in Doha, really, as to how to get them involved.
Okay.
But it is hopeful because Trump has a great chance to deliver a strong win with this.
Dr. Rubin, I'm very glad that you mentioned the M23 because for years Rwanda has been accused of backing the M23 rebels while in Eastern Congo, while Kigali has been accused of backing hostile elements. So how central exactly is this discussion on proxy groups or the use of proxy groups? Is the agreement, does it address these issues of the use of these proxy elements?
Right now, the conversation between the United States and its two countries, the isn't involved. And it is important we are not secure. Now, listen, this is a group. They have been serving a particular interest. Here, the interest of Rwanda, really. Those of Rwanda did from that. And they've got access to intelligence, they've got access to weapons, they've got access to training, right? And leverage this
All right, Dr. Rubin, Dr. Rubin, we seem to be losing you. I'm going to suggest that you switch off your video so we can have all that data go to your audio, so perhaps we can hear your submission on that question better. So could you switch off your video? So let's just have your audio. Perhaps that will work. If you've done that, you can continue.
Can you hear?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me much?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
beautiful. So I was saying that, you know, it is important that the M23 element is, you know, is factored into it, because listen, this is a rebel, and if they've got the manpower, they've got weapons, they've got training, they've got intelligence, and they are using all of that right now to serve the interests of those funding them. That interest can quickly change because they've also discovered this other.
We unfortunately can't continue with this interview. Our guest today is Dr. Brian Rubin, but the network connectivity is having an issue lagging his audio and visuals. But we'll try to bring this conversation hopefully tomorrow or on a later time when this story continues to develop. Now, we know that the peace deal has been signed by both Rwanda and DR Congo. Now, we wait to see whether this would be a genuine peace and what it would mean for the Greater Lake region of Africa. That's what DR Congo as well as Rwanda, the conflict in that area, but also the entirety of that region when it comes to commerce and peace, stability.
Indeed, a very interesting one there. I was really hoping that we could get the doctor's submission on that last question I asked regarding these proxy groups and how they operate. I think he was trying to tell us something about going really way back in history as to how these proxy groups actually are formed and what their needs were or grievances were. The issue here is if you don't do that, then you're simply just addressing the issue on a surface level. It goes much more deeper than that. Dr. Rubin, I think you are back. I'm going to give you the opportunity to give us your last take. Hopefully the network is going to allow you to do that. So please continue real summarily if you don't mind.
Then you have a real problem, because this is a rebel group that is currently serving a particular interest and being funded by some group, right? Now, if Rwanda, all right, signs and go ahead with this deal and the M23 is not satisfied, they can quickly, of course, begin to advance another interest. They already have weapons, they have manpower, they have intelligence. So that creates a problem. However, I believe that the United States involvement can bring a real difference, because the United States can pressure both the M23 and the Rwandan government to ensure that the war, that peace returns to the region, because the U.S. can provide intelligence. The U.S. can also deal with the supply chain, with the minerals trading, that is happening illegally, right? Because now there can be a greater emphasis on declarations, forcing companies to declare their compliance with the laid down rules for trading, especially the treaty here. So with that, Trump has a real chance to bring peace to the region. It's right now, it's not complete right now, so it's not complete yet. We need to see what comes out of the conversations in Doha, with the M23. But I think there's a real chance, and the U.S. can make a real difference because, again, has a lot of weapons, a lot of geo-economic tools, to help advance this time. And you see, the United Nations is also not involved in this, right? But with the involvement of the United States, and if it can help deal with the minerals trading, if that can happen, then there's a real chance to see peace return in the region.
Well, only time will tell whether this peace deal will be able to achieve that, or whether or not the Trump administration can aid peace in its entirety. Dr. Rubin, Brian Rubin, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us and still trying to submit in spite of the connectivity issues. We appreciate you for coming on. Now it's Focus Africa. They're pretty much wrapping up the hour and the entire show for this Saturday morning. Thank you for being part of the show from 8 a.m. all the way down to this very second. As always, make sure to join us tomorrow, 8 a.m. in the morning, bright and early as always. Can't wait to have you.
Bye-bye.
No, we have takeout.
Oh, we do have takeout now, don't we? Go ahead, tell them.
I don't know. You tell them. Anyway, we do have a takeout. Just a small clip for you. A little bit of something, you know, to take home. So small jara. I love that. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.